All right, your exam 3, you're going to be getting kinesiology detectives. We need to be able to figure out. Obviously, there's going to be some things we're going to need to learn. There's going to be some things we need to memorize. When you're playing a new board game, you got to learn the rules. You got to learn what the pieces are called. But then it becomes getting better at it by play. We're going to play a lot today because I think that's the only way to learn this game. Okay. So what I did is I tried to break down the steps to the process of being able to answer the following questions on your test. Who's working? And when I say who's working, which group of muscles is doing a job? Doesn't count your heart. Doesn't count smooth. These are all skeletal muscles. These are consciously innervated muscles that we need to recruit to influence our joint motions. We've spent a lot of time on joint motion. Muscles influence motion through the context of muscle contraction. So you're going to have to identify what agonist is doing a job because you see why they need to do the job. Then you're going to have to take the agonist and the motion that you see and be able to tell me the contraction type. Okay, that's the biggest thing we're going to have to do. So step 1, we have to ask ourselves every time, because we don't assume. What is the external force or forces? Sometimes it's multiple. What are they trying to do to my joints? Are they trying to flex me? Are they trying to extend me? Are they trying to internally rotate me? Are they trying to externally rotate me? Are they trying to left transverse cervically rotate? Whatever it is, we have to ask ourselves, what is the external? External forces are things outside of your body. Ground, gravity, the machine. Even though gravity is always pulling down on the weight stack, pulleys can redirect that force and make it want to, let's say, influence you across or up. So we just have to ask ourselves, what is the machine or the exercise trying to do? Not to us as a whole, because that's not how we need to process this. We analyze motion joint by joint. We analyze muscles joint by joint. We've got to take it little bits at a time. Okay. What is the external force trying to do to me? I have an example on the board. The machine or the external force is trying to adduct my left shoulder. We can have a scapular conversation, but I don't want. So let's have a shoulder conversation further. If the external force is trying to adduct my shoulders, I like to play this game by process of elimination. If the external force is trying to bring my arm down, the last thing I need are muscles that are also trying to bring my arm down. Kind of common sense, right? I don't need adduction pullers, I need abduction pullers. We call those abductors. Who are those muscles? Who cares right now? We'll learn them in violent games. But it makes sense. We have to have groups of muscles in every direction of motion that we have. We have to have abduction pullers because sometimes we need them to do the job. We'll talk about the supraspinatus and the long head of the biceps brachii and the deltoid and that kind of stuff. But for now, we need to be able to see, I need left shoulder abductors, which is a plural term, because the machine is trying to adduct me. So far, so good? Now, once you have your agonist, for those of you rewatching, take a picture of this exercise with your phone, because I'm going to go back to the main board. Once we have our agonist, and when I have joint motion, once we have our agonist, external forces trying to cause adduction, I know I need abductors, right? Bless you. I've identified my agonist. This joint motion question is, what is the joint motion? What is the external force trying to cause? That's what this is. External force trying to cause adduction, I need abductors. I've identified my agonistic group. I've identified the muscle group that I need to recruit above rest to do a job. I can't hold that position all day. They're doing a job above rest. It's like they're in the volunteer fire department and they were watching TV and all of a sudden they got the call. They got to go work above rest. Okay. Once we identify the agonist, this is where we have a cross in the road. Agonists based off of pull, the name, flexors, extensors, internal rotators, external rotators. It's translated in a way that we can thus make sense of muscles pull, actual motion, and contraction. In biomechanics, we're going to say, hey, once you have this group, then we can talk about specific muscles in that group. But those specific muscles don't have pull in their name a lot of the times, most of the time. What right sternocleidomastoid? What does that mean? Left piriformis. They're Latin names or origin insertion names. Some muscles have pull in their name. Those are my favorites. You have a muscle in the forearm called the supinator. But most of them don't. So that's why we want to go from here to there when we're talking about figuring out contraction, because it's translated in the same language. So let's see how this would make sense with what I gave you right here. External force is trying to cause left shoulder adduction. I understand that I don't need left shoulder adduction bullets. I need left shoulder abduction bullets. The left shoulder abductors. It could be 2 or it could be 20. It doesn't matter. Whoever pulls, that's what I need them to do now. If I observe abduction during this exercise, the only way abduction pullers do abduction, creating the motion that the muscles pull in, is through concentric contraction. Shortening while trying to shorten while they're doing a job. The motion matches up with the agonist pull. Does that make sense? That should be common sense. The motion matches up with the muscles who you need to do jobs pull. When I observe adduction during this exercise, it's not because of different muscles. That's what I'm trying to recondition your brain to see. It's the same muscles. How do I know it's the same muscles? Because it's the same external force. That machine is trying to adduct you, whether you're going up or coming down. So your agonist needs to be the same, whether you're going up or down. Same external force, same agonistic muscles. The changes in motion won't be because of different muscles. It's going to be because of different contractions. So during the adduction phase of this exercise, the way you got to look at it is abductors allow adduction. That's eccentric. That's weird. That's not what you're expecting for a muscle pulling up to be responsible for motion going down. That's why it's called eccentric. Now, some of you may say, well, wait, aren't the adductors shortening from here to there? Yeah, they are, but they're not doing a job. They're not being recruited above resting tone. We're trying to tell them to shut up, turn off. The abductors are working right now. Does that make sense? I'm going to teach you how to figure out how to solve for contraction through this process. Maybe ab and adduction was, we all struggle with ab and adduction, right? But I thought it would be a great start because we struggle with ab and adduction. Let's try this one. Here. Establish the external force. What motion is the external force trying to do at the elbow? So they're trying to do. Absolutely. What agonistic do we need? Flexural force. Don't say bicep right now. For 2 reasons. One is the bicep's not alone. It's not just the bicep that's working. That's like saying you call a team of fire people to come put out your fire. It's not just the team captain that's going to help you to do that job. There's other people in that group. The bicep is one of them, but it's not the only one. So we're going to say elbow flexors. What that means is muscles that pull in the direction of flexion. It's not associated with a specific motion. It's associated with a specific pull. Elbow flexors, right elbow flexors specifically. Now, what if from this picture you observe flexion? I'm giving you the motion, giving you a variable. Elbow flexors, you have to read it in a sentence. When elbow flexors are working, doing a job, and I observe elbow flexion, the contraction is proven. It's solvable. It's a must. It's an is. Thank you, Sir Isaac Newton. There's no exceptions. Flexors, when they're the agonists, create flexion through concentric. If I observe extension from here, flexors, does that make sense? That I wouldn't use my tricep. I wouldn't use my extensors. I hurt myself. I would still be using flexors because gravity is still trying to extend. Flexors will allow extension through the context of eccentric contraction. And if he's holding this position right here for the photo, flexors are going to prevent the extension from gravity through isometrics. They get harder, but we got to start simple. Got to start simple. Now, some of you might be pattern recognizing and saying, oh, well, any initial motion must be concentric, and that's not true at all. A lot of times your first motion is concentric, but if you're coming up off of a squat rack and gravity's trying to flex your knees and flex your hips, your first movement is eccentric, right? So we can't assume. We have to do every one step by step. We'll do the squat after this one. So before we jump start to muscles in contraction, consistency. What is this machine? What is the exercise trying to do to my shoulders? Absolutely. So you can see why it's important to know our basic joint motions, because if you don't know the difference between flexion and extension, then it's hard to even have a chance. Absolutely. The machine's trying to flex you. If the machine is trying to flex your shoulders, I use process of elimination. I don't need my flexion pulling muscles. Make sense? I don't need muscles that are also pulling in the direction of the machine. I need my extension pulling muscles. We have a group name for those, shoulder extensors. Who are those muscles? Who cares? We'll get to them in biomechanics. But teres major doesn't scream extension puller. Latissimus dorsi doesn't scream extension puller. We have to establish the agonistic group name for purpose. And then once we train our brains to see purpose, then we could talk about who's on the volunteer fire department, Johnny, Timmy, Sally. But just saying those names without context, we don't know what jobs they do. Okay? Outstanding. We need shoulder extensors because the machine's trying to flex us. Now that we've established our agonist, then we could associate motion and muscles. We could associate motion with contraction. Shoulder extensors are going to be responsible for flexion from left to right. Then we have flexion. Extensors do flexion eccentrically. See how that works? Extensors do extension concentrically. See how that works? No pun intended. I lied. That was a pun intended. See how that works? See how that contracts? I lied. Let's do one more before we go to the squat. establish, don't assume. Padding is trying to do what to her knees? Absolutely. We don't need flexion pullers. If we had flexion pullers, we pull the feet away from the padding, right? We need extension pullers. One of the problems that I have with this exercise, some of my other students, and again, when I say problems, it's things that contribute to not our fault, bad verbiage and mistakes. What do they call this exercise? The leg extension machine. And when you think about it, it's like, well, you got to flex too. You got to flex just as much as you extend. But what happens is that little subtle, no me, no harm name says, I know I'm working quads. And it's the leg extension machine. And what it does is it says, anytime I extend, I must be using quads. Without us realizing it, it imprints extension means quads. And by default, sometimes that means, well, if extension means quads, well, then flexion must not mean quads. Flexion must be hamstrings. But you know darn well you're working the same muscles as you lower it down, as you bring it up, right? That's what we're re-educating our brains on. I need knee extensors. In biomechanics, I'm going to teach you about the vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, vastus intermedius, rectus femoris. The individual names, that's next level. I need you to understand that we have muscles that pull in every direction of motion, and right now, we need the muscles that pull in the direction of extension because I have a machine trying to flex me throughout an entire range of motion. Easy enough? So I need the knee extensor. When I observe flexion, they're going to be working eccentrically. And when I observe extension, they're going to be working concentrically. Guys, that's the magic. That's it. Rinse, wash, repeat. Can the scenarios get harder? Yeah. But the process doesn't change. Thank you, Sir Isaac. Let's get to a squat. Sometimes when we're playing like Smash Bros and they're beating me up, sometimes I try to stay like in one corner and they call me, they accuse me of squatting. I don't know what that means. They're like, stop squatting, Dad. I'm like, I'm just sitting here. What do you mean? Is that? Oh yeah, well then in that case, I guess they're like, just trying to survive. Hey, squatters have rights too. All right, you guys, let's have a conversation. We analyze joint by joint. So how about we have a knee conversation? Okay. In this case, you have two forces that are almost kind of think about squishing and supporting. You have gravity and ground, because gravity, planet Earth is pulling you down, but the ground's pushing you up. So together, we're trying to squish you like a worm. Maybe it doesn't work for you. It's okay. I just want right answers. I look at ground and gravity and I say, okay, what are they trying to do to my knees? They're trying to flex my knees. And they're trying to flex my knees when I'm going down. And they're also trying to flex my knees when I'm going up. I can do thought experiments. Guys, you have so much knowledge that I'm trying to tap into. You have life experience that says, if I drop this little foo-foo ball, I hope it's not alive. You know, if I drop it, it's going to fall down. That's life data. We can do the same thing. If I turned off all the muscles at the hips and the knees, he's going to fall down. And that's going to cause knee flexion and hip flexion. And if I turned off all the muscles when he's going down, knee flexion, hip flexion. And if I turned off all the muscles while he's going up, hip flexion, knee flexion. Gravity's trying to flex you the whole time. So if gravity's trying to flex you the whole time, ground and gravity, I need muscles that are trying to extend me the whole time. It's as simple as that. I can identify who I need because I'm asking myself, why do I need them? So my agonists, the muscles doing a job, are my knee extensors. Now let's reverse the question. You tell me the concentric and the eccentric phases. The answers are going to either be left to right or right to left. You tell me where the, not out loud, give it some thought, figure it out, use your tools that you now have. You tell me where the concentric phase is and where the eccentric phase is. And I would love for you to be able to prove it in our language. You're having a conversation with a professional. You're having a conversation with a professor. You're having a conversation at the clinic. And they're like, how do you know it's eccentric? You should be able to answer that. You should be able to answer contractions not by guessing, well, I think it is. No, you know it is. It must be, because muscles can only pull. Take a few seconds to give it some thought. Right to left would be this to there. Knee extensors. Good. Absolutely. And we can say it in a sentence. Knee extensors are going to do the knee extension through concentrics. And the knee extensors are going to allow the knee flexion through eccentrics. We have to have those three variables for it to make sense. What we can't say is knee extensors just do extension. Like Google says, or like the book says. We can't just say that. That is an outcome, but it's specifically only a concentric outcome. Yes, sir. So, absolutely. No problem. It gets wordy, and it'll get easier. I know that for this exercise, I'm working my knee extension pullers because ground and gravity is trying to flex me the whole time. Knowing that I need my knee extensors, from right to left, I observe knee extension, just like on our first two tests. Knee extension pullers will produce knee extension when they're working concentrically, when they're shortening while trying to shorten above rest. Those same muscles, those same knee extensors are going to allow knee flexion, but only when they're working eccentrically, being lengthened while trying to shorten. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to use my Delcom High School helmet. TheraBand's pulling up. I can make the helmet come up by pulling up. I can keep the helmet from falling down while pulling up, but I can also let the helmet go down while still pulling up. Concentric, isometric, eccentric. Think about it. The only way this helmet can fall at the speed of gravity can offer is if I just let go. Okay? Anything slower than that has to be because of eccentric work of things pulling up. And the only way I can make the helmet fall faster than gravity is by yanking down. That's it. And there's going to be exceptions where we're going to need that. It still follows the rules of physics. But every now and then, we're going to have to yank our helmet down because there's some functional reason to go faster than what gravity can offer. But a majority of our lives, our muscles pull in opposition of external forces. So that's why we're starting with the scenarios that we're mostly going to see. We're good? I really do appreciate you asking me to repeat myself, because I've been doing this for so long that sometimes I talk fast, and I don't want to assume either. All right, guys, let's have some fun. These are going to be some non-traditional questions, right? This is where hopefully it should be entertaining. No? Yeah, I know I misspell it. Story of my life. Try to operate. It's like something from the Invincible cartoon. By now, you should be able to tell me agonist and which motions align with which contractions. Go. What joint are we analyzing? Trunk. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Analyze me some trunk. Do it in groups. Think of it on your own, and then ask a neighbor, what did you get? See if you get the same thing. If you do, great. If you don't, great. Then you can have a follow-up conversation about it. Remember the first step. Ask yourself. We figure out who's working because we ask ourselves, why do they need a worker? Why do we need to specifically turn on a certain group of muscles that we call an agonistic group? You have life data. You can just ask yourself, if he turned off all the muscles at the trunk, what would happen? That's showing you what gravity is trying to do, what the external force is trying to do. Also, guys, I won't be able to have office hours until around 10. We're interviewing for new faculty positions, and we have a Zoom call at 9:30. So if you want to come see me, we're gonna have to wait until 10. All right. This is the catch-22 about being a professor. I want to give you time, but also I want to give you a lot of examples. All right, guys, here's my process. That dumbbell is trying to bend his trunk to his right. Good. If the dumbbell is trying to bend his trunk to his right, I don't need muscles that are also trying to bend the trunk to the right. I would need muscles that are trying to bend the trunk to the left. Think about a teeter-totter. If I'm on a teeter-totter and something's trying to tip the teeter-totter this way, and I don't want that to happen, wouldn't I want to pull back the other way? Dumbbells trying to bend you to the right. I don't need muscles that are trying to bend me to the right. I need muscles that are trying to bend me to the left. We have a name for those muscles, left lateral trunk benders. Who are those muscles? Who cares for right now? But we'll learn about the left rectus abdominis and the left external and the left internal and the left erector spinae, spinalis, iliocastalis, longissimus. But if we started off with all of those random names of players, we lose track of the fact that they're on a specific team doing a specific job based off of a direction of their pull. If I can get you, if anything, to give you something for your money, to learn about identifying agonists based off of pull, you can look up who those muscles are. But looking up, AI will not figure out if something is working. You have to figure out if something's working. Once you figure out the agonist, though, then there's other options to find who's in that group. Guys, what we're working towards is eventually we're not going to have to use the word core to mean everything, or they pulled in oblique. Okay, which one? Because you have different ones that pull different ways. Which one is kind of important? That's what we're working towards. All right. So I know I'm using my left lateral trunk benders. So without even looking at it, if I observe left lateral trunk bending, that's got to be concentric. And when I see right lateral, it's got to be eccentric. So from left to right, that would be concentric contraction of the left laterals, because left lateral trunk benders do left lateral trunk bending through concentrics. And from right to left lateral trunk benders allow right lateral trunk bending through eccentrics. That's how muscles work. Any questions, clarifications before we move on to another more complex question? Or do you want to keep it simple? Let's do it, and then you can tell me if you. To me, the best questions are the hard questions, because then it makes the simple questions simple. That makes sense. I want to have a trunk conversation. When he's at the top, if I have a magic remote control that can control muscle activity, and I turn all of his trunk muscles off, that's what's going to happen. This new position is showing you what the external forces are trying to cause at the trunk. It's not just gravity, it's ground and gravity. Think of it like this. If I had a silly putty and I stretched it, gravity's trying to sag the bottom, but I have two hands that are preventing everything from falling to the bottom. So it's very similar. I have the ground pushing up on the feet and the forearms, and you have gravity trying to sag the middle. Give it some thought. I would love for you to be able to tell me the agonist at the trunk to hold that position at the top. It's like doing a side plank. And then top to bottom, what type of contraction by that agonist was that? And then bottom to top, what type of contraction? I need muscles, I need motion, and I need contraction. Go. External force is trying to do what to his trunk? It's trying to bend him how? To his right lateral. And again, how do I know? Because if I've turned off everything, his right shoulder is closer to his right hip. He plops down, he's going to be bent to the right. So if grounding gravity is trying to bend his trunk to his right, the last thing I want is to use muscles that are also trying to bend his trunk to the right. I need muscles that are trying to bend his trunk to the left. I need left lateral trunk benders. Knowing that I need left lateral trunk benders, those muscles pull in the direction of left lateral. Who are they in pairs right now? You have muscles that pull in every direction of motion. I've just figured out that I need left lateral pullers. So when I see left lateral bending, it's got to be through concentric. And when I see right lateral bending, it's got to be through concentric. So from top to bottom would be eccentrics, and from bottom to top would be concentrics. Make sense? For bonus practice, what agonist would be on at this cervical? Just because the bottom muscles are working at the trunk, we don't assume. He doesn't have his head on a chair. So gravity would literally just be trying to plop his left ear to his left shoulder. So to hold that position isometrically, he would need right lateral cervical benders. You do not assume. You need muscles on the bottom at the trunk, and you need muscles at the top at the cervical for this example. But again, don't think of that as every time. Don't memorize scenarios, because every scenario could be different. Memorize the process. Memorize the process. Yes, sir.
You said he needs right lateral cervical benders to keep it isometric.
Yeah, he needs isometric contraction of his right lateral cervicals because gravity's trying to bend him. Gravity's trying to make his left ear touch his left shoulder. So if he wants to maintain that neck position, he has to use right laterals. And again, in biomechanics, I'll teach you who those are. But if all we did was say, okay, guys, gravity's trying to bend him to the left, so he needs his right sternocleidomastoid and his right, we have to go off of directional pull first. And then once we got that really down to a pat, then we could say, all right, who are the right lateral benders? Who are the left transverse trunk rotators there? All right, how about this one? Yeah, let's have a trunk conversation. You kind of things on that. We need to be able to identify agonist. And then we need to be able to see how the agonists influence motion. The same muscles influence different motions in different effects. And you have to be able to see that.
Well, this is nothing. And the mistakes that you make are good lessons. Still look at the ones that you learn best and make mistakes. What better way to make a mistake than try to different patterns? So to me, the best way to practice, you go in the weight room or here at the house. It doesn't take much for that and we it's do different things and practice further. Figuring out magnets, screwing base off of the hole, and then lining up the motions with the contraction. And after this, I'll give you another tricky. It's not tricky things. All right. The cable, the machine, the exercise is trying to twist her trunk. How? Yes, her good to her left. We're all good on that. If the machine is trying to twist her trunk to her left, I don't need muscles at all trying to twist her trunk to her left. That's how I do it every time. I eliminate who I don't need so that I can feel more comfortable by saying who I do need. Does that make sense? So that I don't need left transverse pullers, I need right transverse pullers. Who are those muscles? Who cares? We'll learn in biomechanics. I'm going to teach you about how the left external and the right internal work right with your pocket belt. It's going to be clear. But right now, I just need you to see if something's trying to twist me this way, I need muscles that are trying to twist together. So I'm going to get you to see. And then in this exercise, I don't need different groups of muscles because that machine is trying to pull me the same way. I need the same muscles that are going to influence two different motions through two different contractions. So external forces trying to twist me to the left. I need muscles that are trying to twist me to the right. I call them right transverse trunk rotators. When I observe right transverse trunk rotation, right transverse trunk rotators do right transverse trunk rotation through concentrics. Right transverse trunk rotators allow left transverse trunk rotation due to BC. So again, last week, I know that at the beginning it's like, oh man, that's too many words that sound alike, adduction, adduction. But if you think about it, once you work through that little bit of confusion, it actually is much better because the things can line up now. They're in the same language. When I'm using muscles that pull in a certain way and the motion matches up with the muscles pull, it's concentrics. And when the motion is in the opposite direction of the muscles pull, it's that concentrics. Guys, why do you think they call concentrics negatives? Because it's negative work. It's not that I owe you work, it's just that the motion is in the opposite direction of the applied force. Like you think about lowering a box down as being negative work, but it becomes positive. That's like another name for concentrics. Pelvic girdle is basketball. However, the basketball cannot spin itself. Something must spin the basketball. And we can either spin it underneath with our hips when our feet are on the ground, hip or hips, or we can hone it and influence the pelvic girdle with our trunk when our feet are off the ground. In this case, our feet are off the ground. So the pelvic girdle rotation is going to be influenced by trunk motion, thus trunk muscles. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, here's a fun question. Holding that position, we're going to ramp up the harder questions. Just isometric question. Holding that position, gravity is trying to twist this pelvis in a certain direction. And by doing so, it's also trying to twist its trunk in a specific direction. So I need you to apply the skills that we can develop and say, well, if gravity twists its trunk in a certain direction, I don't need muscles that are also trying to twist the trunk in that same direction. I must need the opposite muscles. Same process. But it's a little weird when we do the cap and bottle stuff. That's why I'm introducing it to you isometric. So give it some thought. That'll be the last question of the day. Can you tell me which muscles of the trunk, which agonists of the trunk, which rotators would be holding this position isometrically? Don't say it out loud. Good. Yes, it's installed. Theology, aka beyond the core. I see why it's so easy to just say core. But again, for us, we're going to have to know specific muscles and specific rehab when there's certain injuries, there's indications of contraindications, there's certain threats that we don't want to be when there's specific muscles involved. We don't want to just metaphorically throw paint at it and hope that it hits you. Be able to see and understand specific muscles and specific emotions, the specific with specific salvation. I have anybody need more time? Again, I don't care how you do it. I just want right answers. And if you come to my office and say you need to go get tested, you got them all wrong, and you say, well, this is how I do it, and I'm like, maybe you need to do it my way. Maybe your way is not working. And no offense to your way, if it's getting you right answers, I don't care. But if it's not getting you right answers, try it out. Gravity is trying to spin his pelvis to the left. However, that also means it's trying to spin his trunk to his right. Think about it. If he relaxed all of his muscles and his legs plopped down, his sternum would be looking more. It's right there. Does that make sense? Gravity is trying to twist his trunk to his right. So guess who I don't need? I do not need muscles that are also trying to twist his trunk to the right. You see how easy this process can be? But in a complex exam, it can be easy if we stick to the plan. Gravity's trying to twist his trunk to the right. I don't need muscles that are trying to twist his trunk to the right. I need muscles that are trying to twist his trunk to the right. I need left transverse trunk. And I'm going to cue those muscles. But does it make sense if I just said, what muscles am I working here? It's hard to be able to say, oh, that's right external, left internal, left right spine. And so it's so much easier to just say, what are the muscles working here? Oh, that's your core. I get it, man. I get it. Well, we have to be beyond core. I'll leave it with this example. When I first started here in 06, I was given a biomechanics final, and I used to join a fitness club down the road when I was younger, and I won't say the name of it, but it rhymes with Fred's. And there was a student in my class who was studying for the final, and I went to her as a joke because she had her notes out, and I was like, ma'am, what muscles am I using when I do this exercise? Because I saw she was studying wrist muscles. And she started laughing, and all of a sudden it was like in a Marvel movie, this puff of smoke, this dude comes on a zip line like he was like a kinesiology superhero. He was like, sir, I heard your question, and I'm a personal trainer here, and I just wanted to let you know that the answer is the forearm muscles. And she's like, oh my God. And I looked at him and I said, thank you.
Now I know that it's my forearm muscles. I appreciate it. So we have to be beyond the forearm muscles. We have to be beyond the core. We as educated members of the kinesiology fan club, we have to be better. Cool? All right. Sermon over. Go in peace to love and serve.